For this project, we will be replacing the pinion oil seal from a Dana 27 rear differential. Before the seal can be replaced, we will first have to remove the two U-bolts holding the tube shaft to the flange yoke. Once these two bolts are removed, push the tube shaft towards the front. Be careful to not have the universal joint caps fall off of the universal when setting the shaft to one side. It is a good idea to tape the caps to the universal. After removing the two U-bolts and prying the drive shaft off and setting the drive shaft off to the side, the next thing that I'll be doing is removing the nut that holds into, I believe is called a brake flange. And before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark it, both the nut, the flange, and the differential housing, as to where it should line up, because when I take this nut off, I'm going to count how many revolutions it's going to turn, so that when I go to reinstall it, I can put the nut back in the exact same spot, and that way not cause any undue stress or anything on any of the components inside of the differential. I have two types of markers. I'm not sure which one's going to work on this much grease. Yeah, see, it's not coming on. It's not really. Let me try this. The stick. I thought I'd be having that problem, but this is basically what you want to do. It's lined up to the differential housing, the flange is lined up to the housing, and the nut is lined up. So I'm going to see if I can remove it. The nut, I believe, is a 1 1/8 inch, and not sure whether I can remove it by hand or not, but I'm going to give it a shot. It'll make it a lot easier when it comes to counting the revolutions. Okay, after loosening the nut and removing it, what I went ahead and did, instead of counting the number of turns, because I had to use a torque wrench on it to break the nut from its seat, I counted the number of threads, which were 2. And when I go to put it back on, that's what I'll shoot for. I got all the markings where it should line up, and hopefully that'll make it simpler for me when it comes back to reassembling. Alright, nut is off. There's the washer. Let's see if this comes off, or do I have to pry it off somehow? I had to use a gear puller to remove the yoke because I was not able to remove it by hand. Using the puller, the yoke slid off easily from the splined pinion gear. With the gear puller, the pinion yoke has been loosened and slides right off. You are now able to see the splined end of the pinion gear and the pinion oil seal. This area on the differential will have to be cleaned. Examining this area, it appears at some time sealant was packed on the outside of the seal. The sealant was packed all around the oil seal. Usually, when installing the seal, a thin coat of sealant is applied to the outside of the seal before it is seated. Hopefully there wasn't a reason for it, but I won't know until I clean up the surface. After removing the black sealant that was on the front of the oil seal, there appears to have been 2 reasons for using this sealant. When a new seal was installed, they canted the seal, which was not flush with the face of the differential. It was seated slightly above on the edge of the differential at the top, while down about 1/32 to 1/16 on the lower edge. When they realized it was canted, they tried to remove the seal to get it properly seated, but couldn't. They ended up peeling up the lips of the seal and then flattened it to make it appear flush. After the install, it leaked, and additional sealant was used to try to stop the leak. I'm going to remove this. I'll probably either use a seal puller or maybe use the old, put in a sheet metal screw and try to pull the old seal out that way. I'm not sure which is going to work better. I'll have to play around with it. And when I come back, hopefully this won't be scored or damaged in any way because of whatever they did up here, which in all likelihood caused it to weep or leak oil. And that's why they put all the extra sealant in there. Okay, I used my oil seal remover and wasn't able to use it because I wasn't able to catch anything substantial on this rubber lip here. It was slipping all the time, so I had to resort to drilling in a sheet metal screw. And as you can see, I've already been able to pry it, basically just using the small pry bar I have. I could use a larger one, but it comes out pretty easy, and it's already out up in this section. Now I'm going to probably have to do another one here and maybe one up here till I can get it to a point where I can grab this lip with another tool so I can pull it out all the way. Next you'll see when I come back, you'll see that I'll inspect the inside of this housing here to make sure there isn't any damage or anything. I don't think there is. They just seated the seal wrong, so it leaked, and we'll be back at you once I have that seal out. And there you go. Seal popped out. Had to drill in 3 different holes. First used pry bar. I had a smaller one, but I tried to use this to snug it up a little bit more. Got it out to a point and then used the channel locks here. Gripped it in 3 different sections and just with a lightweight hammer tapped on the channel locks, and after 3 blows it popped right out. So now the next thing we'll do, we'll take a look at in here, clean this all up, make this a nice smooth shiny surface, and we'll start looking into, we'll check the slinger, see what condition this might be. And this is the old spring from the seal that came off when I was trying to use the this tool here, the seal puller, which didn't work. Okay, now I believe I'm all ready to install the pinion seal. What I've done in preparation, in addition to cleaning the surface and the face of the, or the inside face of the housing where the seal sits, looks in pretty good condition. There's a few chips and scratches up here, probably when someone tried prying it a while ago. But what I've done is I've gone ahead and taken some differential oil. I've coated the inside of the seal where the brake flange or pinion yoke, I'm not sure what you call it, will slide through. Take a little bit of resistance off of it. I've also gone ahead and I've used some ultra black gasket maker that's oil resistant, and the reason for that is that's to help prevent a seal. What I have to do now is I have to I'll just smooth this out. It doesn't take very much to put on it. It just goes all the way around. All the way around here, and then when you're ready to put it in, you just bring it up to the face put in as flush as you can. Alright, as you can see, what I ended up having to do, I was able to tap it in using a hammer to get it started, but when I was trying to tap it in with the hammer, I started bending up the flange right here for whatever reason. I wasn't hitting it hard, so I ended up using a dowel and lightly all throughout, just tap all the way around, and it appears that I didn't do any significant damage. Well, hopefully I didn't do any damage to the seal, and it has seated itself all the way down. Now what I'll just go ahead and do is just clean up that surface of any the black seal maker might have poured out, but it looks pretty good. After the brake flange or brake yoke is back onto the pinion gear and the threads are exposed, first you put the washer back, take your nut, and here's my marking, so I have to line this up with this, and it'll be back in the same position as before, taking into account the two threads. So those are relatively easy. It's a 1 1/8 socket. And okay, it's at 1, and next time I'll be in, I'll have this down to the full 2. Okay, at this point I have the nut back on the pinion gear. My markings are all lined up with the differential, the yoke, or the flange, whatever it's called, the nut. And as you can see, I have 2 threads. One, I count 1 against the flush, and the one above it, 1 or 2. So at this point I'm basically all done. All I have to do is attach the drive shaft, the U-bolt, and the flanges that hold the U-bolt in place, and the project will be all done at this time. If you have any questions or anything, or like to have me explain anything further, please send me a comment, and I'll be quick to get back to you with a response. Again, thank you for watching.